David Walker makes his weekly appearance. Doug Branson makes good on that whole mock draft every day thing. And we'll talk about the new hires in the Hornets organization. All today on Locked On Hornets.
You are Locked On Hornets, your daily Charlotte Hornets podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
In a minute, cuz we live.
It's Locked On Hornets, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. It's your team every day. Thanks for making us your first listen. We are free and available anywhere you get your podcast, and that includes YouTube. Today's episode is brought to you by GameTime. You can download the GameTime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Game time. There's Doug Branson. You can find him on his Substack, everyhornetsboxscore.com. You can also check out his subtext information there. I'm Walker Mail. Listen to me, WFNZ, every weekday from 12 to 3 p.m. And there's David Walker. The beard is back. The hair is not, though. Instead, he has a cool North Carolina hat. Follow him on Twitter at David B. Walker. Fresh off his yearly appearance, not weekly like it is for Locked On Hornets, but his yearly appearance on Wes and Walker Friday. And we're bringing him back on to share more Charles Lee thoughts and share more thoughts on the Charlotte Hornets. Do you feel like people are coming up to you a lot more after appearing on Wes and Walker?
Oh my God, I can't even leave the house anymore. It's just almost too much, but I love it so much. I've already committed. Breaking news: I've already committed next year. Back in the same place, same time.
Oh wow, huge!
Let Wes know. Let Wes know. Let everyone in the studio know. It's all right, guys. I'll come back.
He'll be back, and that's for the PGA Championship next year. So that'll be exciting.
Wow, there we go.
Big time. Let's talk about some of the Charlotte Hornets hires, because they didn't stop at just Charles Lee. Instead, since they hired Charles Lee, he's been filling out the coaching staff, and the Hornets actually made a business hire. Let's start with the assistant coaches. Guys, we have a Skeeter and a Longstaff on this staff. That's what we have.
That's great.
Lamar Skeeter, the assistant coach. He started his coaching career with the Canton Charge, the Cleveland Cavaliers G League affiliate, before moving to the Hawks as a player development coach and video intern under Mike Budenholzer. So you have the Budenholzer ties. He spent the last decade with the Jazz, where he served in various roles, including player development coach and assistant coach under Quinn Snyder and Will Hardy. And then the other assistant coach is Josh Longstaff. Let's settle with Lamar Skeeter for a second. These names are ridiculous. I'm not going to be able to do both of them at the same time. But David, if we are continuing to see the Hornets make smart hires, it feels like Charles Lee is doing the same thing. One, you're all going to be on the same page with the Mike Budenholzer ties, but Will Hardy is also viewed as a smart coach around the league, along with Quinn Snyder. So I like that this is somebody that comes over to the Hornets staff. And the real important thing here is that it seems the Hornets are letting the head coach fill out the staff the way he wants to.
What a concept.
Yeah, it's amazing, right? With zero influence themselves. And I think that's one of the bigger takeaways too.
And so far, no one, I don't believe either of these two have actual head coaching experience on their resume as far as NBA season long. So, there was some wonder if they'd try to bring in someone that had, and they still may. I did see Darvin Ham's name tossed out in the early stages. That would be interesting for sure. I don't know why he wouldn't just want to take a year off, but you don't have the grizzled old veteran on this bench as of yet, which I don't mind at all. To your point, I think they're letting Charles Lee, drive the ship. They're letting him captain this thing and fill the bench as he wants to. So, and I think that's another good sign, as you pointed out. So we'll see if they make any additional hires, but so far you have to be happy. It's a group of young guys with a lot of experience and probably looking to prove something here. So to your point, they'll also be all on the same page. So yeah, I mean, you got to like it.
Josh Longstaff, also on this assistant staff, 41 years old, got his start at the high school level, Portland High School in Maine, right up there where Steve Clifford is from, by the way.
Another guy, who got his start coaching high school ball in Maine. They'll have a lot to talk about since Clifford, at least we think, there's been a lot of people that we think have jobs with the Charlotte Hornets who we're not entirely certain, like Mitch Kupchak, Steve Clifford, a lot of guys that we think have jobs. And may have just it may have just been Rick Schnall like pulling the lever and they fall through the floor. We don't know. We just don't know at this point. They might have something to talk about if they're down the hall from one another.
So he went to Bryant University. He was coaching for the Knicks for 2014, 2017. He coached for the Erie Bayhawks 2017-18, Milwaukee from 2018 to 2020, and most recently the Bulls for the last 3-4 years. And so this is somebody that also has a little familiarity with Charles Lee, working for the Milwaukee Bucks for that 2-year stretch. So we have Lamar Skeeter, we have Josh Longstaff. Doug, I do feel like these two coaching hires are impressive just based off their resume. What we can learn, like what we do know, which is not a whole lot, but at least Charles Lee is being able to call the shots.
Well, it represents guys that have a lot of experience, and particularly in player development, but they're young enough where, it's not a bunch of like 60-year-olds and 70-year-olds who you're like, they're crawling back to their experience in an era of basketball that may not be as applicable. What? I'm just saying.
Are you saying the road trips might be a little more lively now, or maybe not? I don't know. This new gen's getting to bed early. They're just grinding tape out. Who knows?
I'm not being ageist here. I'm just saying it's a different direction than what we've seen with Clifford's previous staff. It's younger. It is more exciting. We won't hold being a member of the Bulls staff against Longstaff, although I am more of a long bow guy myself. And then Skeeter, I'm always going to be happy to welcome someone who has also had to endure probably the jokes about the Doug cartoon, as someone that had to endure those in high school and college. So yeah, that's always.
I had no clue. I mean, you kept us on buddy. Like that was a tease.
Is there a Skeeter on Doug?
There is. He's a blue guy.
Okay.
And Lamar Skeeter was born in '89, so this might be the first. I'm sure there were player development guys like what was that? What was the guru that's been on the staff since Borrego? He's probably younger than me, but this represents the first guy that's like legit assistant coach who is younger than me, I think.
Walker, put that one in your back pocket for media day, okay?
They're coming for you too, Walker. It's going to be soon. What's your birth year? They're coming for you too, buddy.
It's 92, so they are.
We're close, just a couple of years.
Oh, for sure. No, we're very close to that happening. The first time I realized that I was as old or older than some of the players on the Hornets, it was Bismack Biyombo and the MKG. I think that's when we started to realize, oh man, I can't believe I'm as old as some of these guys. I think a cousin Skeeter for all of you people that are my age out there that made Nickelodeon for a little while. Yeah, I like the hires from what we can gather from both of these guys, but you're right. They haven't gone after the old grizzled vet that used to be a head coach. It didn't work out, but at least they had some experience. And we even saw this with James Borrego. He did the Jay Triano thing, which I do think was a really nice hire. But we haven't seen that here. And maybe that comes, who knows? But if Charles Lee would rather work with guys that he's closer with, I'm way open to that. But also feels like Charles Lee just might have a good handle on it. He said, hey, I don't need somebody to babysit me through this. I feel very comfortable in this lead dog role. And these people need to fall in line. I don't need somebody that I might be butting heads with that can show me the ropes. I don't need to be shown. Like, I've worked with Budenholzer. I've been an assistant for a championship team. I might win another one. I'm good. I don't need anybody to show me the way.
I legit don't think he does. I was talking to John Corrales, the host of the Locked On Celtics podcast, and he was telling me that one of Charles Lee's main responsibilities on that Celtics staff was to keep Joe Mazzulla organized. Because Mazzulla is, anyone who follows the NBA knows that Mazzulla is a little odd. We'll just put it that way. Eccentric. And so, Charles Lee was sort of a little bit of the adult in the room. I know we're tired of that phrase when it comes to Gordon Hayward and some other folks that have been associated with the Charlotte Hornets. But he was the guy that organized that staff. So I don't think that he needs that at all. And I think these first two hires reflect that. Although we have heard rumors of, a possible Darvin Ham hire who does have some head coaching experience himself.
And familiarity with Lee, by the way.
Right.
So we're continuing to go back to the Hawks roots that were there from the early 2010s and on. We loved that mold. Hey, if they can win 60 games, not 50, Doug, not the D'Antoni 50, but if they can win 60 games like the Hawks were able to do in, I guess, the first year that Lee was an assistant coach, I'll take all the Hawks.
If they win 60 games, I'll shave every hair on my body. Yeah, I've said playoffs, I'll shave the head. I will shave every hair on my body if they get 60. Not 50, 60.
Okay. We will not ask for that proof. We'll
shave for 60.
We could just say, that's fine.
Just the stash will do just fine. Let's go to a couple of other segments on Locked On Hornets coming up next.
There's a lot more than that.
Don't go to sleep on the Hornets just yet.
Oh, there's another hire we need to inform the people on. And also, we have another mock draft for Doug to reveal. That's still to come here on Locked On Hornets. This episode is brought to you by BetterHelp. We all carry around different stressors, big and small. When we keep them bottled up, it can start to affect us negatively. And therapy is a safe space to get things off of your chest and to figure out how to work through whatever is weighing you down. If you're thinking of starting therapy, then give BetterHelp a try. It's entirely online, designed to be convenient, flexible, and suited to your schedule. Just fill out a brief questionnaire to get matched with a licensed therapist, and then you can even switch therapist anytime for no additional charge if you want to. Get it off your chest with BetterHelp. Visit BetterHelp.com/LockedOnNBA today to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, H-E-L-P, BetterHelp.com/LockedOnNBA. More Locked On Hornets ahead. There is another hire to speak of. Not only are there a couple of hires on the coaching staff, but the Charlotte Hornets have a new president, Shelly Kayette-Weston. The Hornets announced on Monday that they hired Shelly Weston, who spent the past 12 years with the Cleveland Cavaliers as their new president of business operations. Kayette-Weston is going to oversee the organization's daily business operations, including the Greensboro Swarm, Hornets Venom GT, that's their esports team, and their home arena, the Spectrum Center. And she'll report to co-owners Rick Schnall and Gabe Plotkin, filling a void left by Fred Whitfield's resignation in December. We know how much Fred Whitfield meant to that organization. Lifelong friend of Michael Jordan. Now that Michael Jordan's out, made sense for Fred Whitfield to step down, especially with some of the health problems that he was going through. And so Shelly Kayette-Weston, the new president, after doing a nice job with Cleveland for so long. Doug, what do you make of this hire? Anything that stands out to you?
It seems like everyone has rave reviews about what she did in Cleveland. This is going to be less important, I think, to the daily fan, but the business success of the Charlotte Hornets will have trickle-down effects on the team's success. It's just gives more leeway to the ownership group to invest in the team in the way they need to be invested in. And so, all of these things play a factor. I will say this, and, when Michael Jordan sold his majority stake in the team, he was one of the only black owners in sports and the only one in the NBA, and he sold to two white guys. Yep. And so we said at the time that it would be, I thought it was important for them to make sure that there was still a diversity in the leadership of this team. And I think with Charles Lee and Lamar Skeeter and now Shelly Kayette-Weston, they have accomplished that for sure. There's a lot of black excellence in Charlotte. I think it's one of the things that the city prides itself on, and I'm glad that it's still reflected in the Charlotte Hornets team.
Oh, it is reflected.
Yeah.
It is reflected big time in these hires. So now what you have is Jeff Peterson, African-American, alongside assistant GM Doten Akinwale, who also comes from that Hawks organization. Charles Lee's your head coach, and you have Lamar Skeeter and Josh Longstaff. Now you have Shelly Kayette-Weston, who is also black, coming from Cleveland. Every position of power, you have diversity there in a way where it's even more diversity than with Michael Jordan, who was that owner, and you're totally right. I was worried about that too, with two white guys coming in to be the co-owners of this organization. All right, guys, look, this was a precedent set by Michael where you did have diversity all across the board. Please don't lose that. And they have not. And so you're right to point that out. That's a big deal. And really every position of authority, you have somebody who is an African-American that is calling the shots, business or basketball operations. Yeah, man. I mean, they've made sure that they take care of that, and I love it because now what you have with the Charlotte Hornets is somebody, a team that cares about that, and I think that's a big deal. So I'm glad that care has not gone away with Michael Jordan selling majority stake.
Yeah, and I'll say, I mean, Fred Whitfield, those are big shoes, for her
sure
to step into, and I'm sure she's totally ready. I mean, she's had a lot of good experience in Cleveland. I think her press picture or one of her pictures was her with the Larry O'Brien trophy, and it wasn't on this like Larry O'Brien tour, social media tour that they're going on. It was from actually winning a Larry O'Brien trophy and being involved in an organization that did that. But to your point, Doug, a lot of that behind the scenes stuff, Fred Whitfield was the face of the Hornets franchise to the business community in Charlotte and did a lot of heavy lifting, considering the on-court product even more so. And he was key and important. And really, when this was not popular, when it first came back, from his first day here working with the business leaders in Charlotte, he was going out there, shaking hands, making relationships, fostering those, and doing a great job of bringing the business community in to be partners with the team. So just kind of a shout out to Fred Whitfield, because I thought he was kind of a legend in that space here. And I'm sure he'll follow in his footsteps and do a great job.
Yeah, well, Fred's job was to take Spectrum Center and turn it into like a destination for big acts. You know, that was one part of his job. And I think he did that. He succeeded in that. And now with the entire organization and Shelly Kyatt Weston leading it up as president, their focus now, it seems like, is to turn that whole area into an entertainment district. And again, if you're just a fan of the Charlotte Hornets and you don't live in Charlotte and you're like, why should I care about this? Look, if they're going to invest in an entertainment district, they've got to have an entertaining product. So if they're going to take that risk and want to make that into a zone where a lot of people want to come and spend their money, then you would think that the ownership group would be focused on putting a good product out on their floor with the premier act in Spectrum Center, which is the Charlotte Hornets.
Right. Yeah, you're hoping all signs point to that, right? Like this continues. All this off-court, off-season stuff continues to, matriculate down into the real action.
There is so much change. It's ridiculous how much change has happened with this Hornets organization, and it's needed. I'm glad that Gabe Plotkin and Rick Schnall, who is the active operating owner right now with a little bit more control than 5 years, it'll go to Gabe Plotkin. But with what Rick Schnall has done, I know it's so weird, but with what Rick Schnall has done, I love everything that has taken place, and Jeff Peterson, Charles Lee, their responsibilities and how they've operated within their space, the coaching staff, and then people a part of basketball operations. It seems like people have power. Seems like they're making smart hires, and it's a beautiful thing top to bottom. But it feels different, and that's why we're excited.
I think for 6 months, every 5 years, J. Cole should get a run at the big show.
Just to see.
Yeah, just to see what happens.
At least send them to the draft lottery, which hopefully they won't be in anymore. But at least, put him up on that stage. Although J. Cole, I think, is laying low, just a little bit more these days.
Oh, he's
okay,
chilling,
fine. It's too big of a job for one person, so we make it Eric Church and J. Cole. They both get to be co-owner for 6 months. Let the musicians run the show. We'll see what happens.
I can't think of anything that would go wrong with that proposal. Not one thing. Do you want to go with the mock draft here, or do you want to wait until the third segment, Doug? Can you wait?
Yeah, I can wait. I will keep the people waiting. It's a mock draft. It's a big one. It's by somebody that I'm not a huge fan of anymore. But we'll see who.
Anymore? I don't even know what happened to make you not. Okay, great. Let's check it out. Coming up next on the Locked On Hornets podcast.
Don't go to sleep on the Hornets just yet.
Find out the beef between Doug Branson and whoever this is that curated the new mock draft that we'll speak about in the final segment. That's still to come on Locked On Hornets. This episode is brought to you by GameTime. GameTime is an authorized ticket marketplace of the NBA, which makes getting playoff tickets even faster and easier. Prices on the GameTime app actually go down the closer it gets to tip-off. With killer last-minute deals, all-in prices, views from your seat, and their lowest price guarantee, GameTime takes the guesswork out of buying NBA tickets. They have priority last-minute deals, flash deals, zone deals, all-in pricing, seat views, and the lowest price guarantee, or GameTime will credit you 110% of the difference. There are so many advantages to using GameTime. Take the guesswork out of buying NBA tickets with GameTime. Download the GameTime app, create an account, and then use code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off, because the postseason going on there too. Download GameTime today. Last minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed. More Locked On Hornets ahead. We'll get to the Siko Satchel in just a moment, but this segment was really built for one Doug Branson. If we have the Siko Satchel, and even it's not important enough to supersede what is going to come at the beginning of this, that means we have another mock draft on our hands. It's the only thing that I can imagine would say what Doug would say is more important than the Siko Satchel. What kind of mock draft do we have, Doug?
Just made my own. I just made my own sound effect that made David Walker giggle like a schoolboy.
It was like a lightsaber. I don't know.
It was like a whip. I guess it was a lightsaber. All right, what do you have, Doug?
This mock draft comes courtesy of the Ringer, Kevin O'Conman, updating his mock draft on May 12th. Yeah, Kevin O'Conman, get out of here. Phony Gavoni is in the pocket of some of these agents. That's why he's Phony Gavoni. Kevin O'Conman was someone who was on the scoot wagon for like 90% of the draft period. He was back there serving drinks on the scoot wagon. He was the bartender.
Man.
And then the last second he pulled. Last second I turned around and he bailed out of the scoot wagon and changed his pick.
Brandon Miller for a while, dude. Anyway, I hate it too. Go ahead, Doug.
No. David is saying he is not Kevin O'Conman. He's defending Kevin O'Conman.
He's totally Kevin O'Conman. Look it up. I don't know how you would do that. I don't know how you would look it up.
Do your research, David.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. Listen, I could just come on here and say things too. No, he was Scoot the whole time. All right. Okay. Kevin O'Conman, I'll tell you who he is right now. He is on the Reed Sheppard bandwagon because he's got Reed Sheppard going number 6 to the Charlotte Hornets in his latest mock draft. He writes, Brandon Miller is looking like the real deal, but LaMelo Ball has been unreliable. If Ball gets back on track, then his backcourt could hum with Sheppard thriving off ball. And if not, then Sheppard could provide some point guard insurance alongside Miller in a multi-creator offense. David, what do you think about Reed Sheppard as the pick at number 6?
Yeah, so who did he have going 1 through 5?
Oh, boy.
So we got Sar.
Yeah, okay. Sar goes 1. Donovan Clingan goes number 2, although Clingan is like number 8 on his big board. He goes number 2 to Washington. Nikola Topic, 3. Rob Dillingham, Matas Buzelis. Matas Buzelis, Reed Sheppard, number 6.
Okay. All right. So it's just interesting to me with Castle still there that the mock of Reed Sheppard would make 100% sense for the Charlotte Hornets. We did this when we previewed the NCAA tournament, Walker. We talked about this a little bit, and I intentionally kind of jumped around Dillingham and Sheppard because of their size, because of being in the backcourt with LaMelo, and then not being a pressing need. But if this guy's the best shooter in the draft, if his vertical from yesterday was as high as they say it was, if he's an inch 42 or 2 taller,
he's still jumping. He still has not hit the ground.
Yeah. So, but it fascinates me that is the need that jumps out. But this draft is so off the wall. I think you could talk yourself into anything. But some of the drafts I've seen have him going like 2 or 3. So if he's there, it would be kind of tough for the Hornets to pass on him. But if they choose between him and Castle and Castle's real height and like Castle's real 3-point shooting, there's so much time to the draft. But that would surprise me a little bit just because point guard specifically, I don't think the Hornets see that as a number 1 need.
Yeah, so we had this conversation. In fact, Doug didn't listen to me the first time, so then we had it again when he made the same exact point. This is what we did in the last episode, where Brandon Miller, under Steve Clifford viewed Brandon Miller as the all-NBA potential guy at the 2 spot because the size would overwhelm the opposition in the backcourt. So if Charles Lee views it the same way, between Castle and Reed Sheppard, you have a little bit of a problem there because they're shorter than Brandon Miller. But with Castle coming in, I think at 6'5.5" after the newly updated measurements, like I guess you could put Castle on opposing 3s and still have Brandon Miller at that 2 spot. But there's just no way Reed Sheppard is playing anything other than 2 and 1. So if you want more positional flexibility without the shooting, then Castle would be your guy if you just outright want the defense. But Sheppard is a good defender. He's just smaller, and you can only be so good, I think, as a smaller guy. But, man, the guy shot 52% from 3 on over 4 attempts from distance per game this year. He's a good enough distributor, over 4 assists per game. He did not show up in the first round of the NCAA tournament. I don't think that's enough for me to be completely scared and say, oh, nope, he's on my do not draft list, but it's something at least to take note of. And maybe on-ball pressure by the opposition affects him a little bit. I am not an absolute no on Reed Sheppard. It's hard to say no to that shooting. And if you have a 42-inch vert and you're a good defender, then okay, I'll welcome it. Castle is still my guy, though, in the early going as the one that I would zero in on more than others.
Walker makes a lot of good points there. One thing I haven't heard anyone talk about yet is what Charles Lee views in terms of Brandon Miller. Is he a 2? Is he a 3?
That's right.
I'm kidding. I'm joking. I heard you. I know you said it. No, listen, I think I'm also not an absolute no on Reed. I am concerned with the height. I know he can jump, and I know he's got that sort of wants it factor, I feel like. But on offense, I'm more concerned about the size than on defense. Honestly, I'm concerned with his ability to, because look, I mean, I think he can shoot, but like, what can he do anything beyond that? And maybe they don't need him to do anything beyond that. Again, it's difficult to evaluate this draft because I feel like we're talking about a bunch of Josh Harts. And so it's like, trying to like critique these guys because they're not going to be all-stars seems absurd. Like, I think a lot of these guys have huge minuses. I will say that Kevin O'Conman knows how to con me because his player comp here is shades of Derek White. And boy, I loved Derek White when he was one of my draft roses. I love him now.
Really? Derek White seems so much longer with the arms.
Taller. Seems bigger
and
for sure.
The defending on the wing, but I guess maybe the knockdown shooting,
A lot of people like him, but a lot of people like Reed Sheppard as a defender, and there's that great the highlight block that he had on like the corner 3, where again he showed off that vertical for sure. It's not just in combine; he's shown it in game too. So look.
I mean, at this point, if he's at 6, though, I mean that's pretty tempting. I mean, if you look at this draft, I don't know how much further he's going to go down. Who knows what's going to happen in team and individual workouts and the rest of the combine and stuff. But I mean, he was number 1 on KOC's big board, like at some point in February. So I think he does like him.
Well, and I'm going to say this, and then I'm going to look like a fool when he turns into the next Devin Snooker and just scores everything everywhere.
If he's Devin Booker, then they should take him.
What I'm saying, I'm going to say what I'm about to say. He's going to turn into Devin Booker, and I'll look like a fool. But if Castle and Sheppard are there like they would be in this mock draft, then I'm taking Castle. But I'm not taking him over Cody Williams or Ron Holland or some of these other cats.
Right.
But because Castle to me is the sure thing defender of the two, and I'm taking a little bit of size. I don't think the Hornets need to get smaller.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and he seems like the NBA prototype still because he can also create. He can move the ball around. If he can knock down the open shot, then he may end up being like the best guy to come out of this draft. I mean, honestly, he's a freshman on that national championship team, so he didn't need to do a whole lot, but he made his presence felt. And like that's still some guys that the Hornets need. If they're not scoring, what else are they doing? You're not going to have a Gordon Hayward. Who else is going to be able to create? You saw what happened when LaMelo was out. And they asked Miles to do a lot more than that he wanted to. So I think that's another plus if you have Castle and he can come in and create for other people.
Let's read. I want to get to at least one Siko Satchel question. I don't know if we'll have enough time. But Sam Vecini has a thread from yesterday after some of the Combine stuff with Reed Sheppard. Here's what Sam Vecini says. With Combine stuff, it's important to think about it as what we didn't know with Reed Sheppard. Take Reed Sheppard is what he's saying. We knew he was something like, or maybe, he was saying take Reed Sheppard for example. We knew he was something like 6'1", 6'2" without shoes. We knew he had short arms. The standing reach is probably a bit lower than expected, but the 42-inch vert is a lot higher. How does that impact his game? In Reed's case, I'm not enthused about the reach. There will be mismatch issues, but less worried about it. We just watched Reed Sheppard 0.7 shots per game as a guard. He can contest shots. The tape matters most. So, that's something to consider with Reed Sheppard, some of the size concerns, but also with the shooting, the vert. I mean, the 42-inch vertical is absolutely nuts. I know people think about all the NBA players as these huge leapers. 42 inches, that's like top tier that's tier one. That leads combines with highest jumps. And so if he has that explosion to help with on-ball defense and apply the principles and get coached up, as long as the lateral quickness is also there, then I'm okay with having a knockdown shooter with good defense playing alongside LaMelo, and then you just run the 3-guard lineup if Brandon Miller is a guard. That could be a lot of fun. So I'd be with
He looks like he's playing slam ball out there.
You love slam ball, but that's the thing that's interesting about this draft, guys. Just to kind of speak on the Hornets falling to 6 there, like it's bizarre because you can talk I think you're going to be able to talk yourself into just about anyone that ends up at 6. Buzelis, Klingon, Castle, like it's not going to be Sarr, and it may not be the other guy that just had an injury up top, Topic, I think, or something. Topic. Yeah. But like, there's going to be a talked about guy there. They've just got to do their homework, make their decision on exactly what they're looking for. That's why, you can't be too upset. Doug, great job on the recap, by the way, on Bleacher Report on the live draft lottery show. But like, you just can't be too torn up about being in 6, because reality is, of the group, you're going to get somebody that you're kind of going to be okay with, and you're just going to have to see like who's got the biggest miss, who's got the biggest thing to worry about.
Doug, do you want to go Siko Satchel? Do we have enough time? Yeah. Real quickly, I've got so I'm digging in the satchel here, and I'm going to pull out a name. David, you give me the name that you want here. I got 3 names. I've got Grant Williams. He's been in the satchel for a while. I've got James Borrego, a recent addition to the satchel.
JB.
Hey, buddy. How you doing? And Michael Jordan, who stays in the satchel. Michael Jordan has a 9th home in the satchel.
Let's keep him there. He keeps a place there. Let's go with JB. Haven't heard from him in a while. Let's go with JB.
Well, you might be hearing a lot more from him because he is in line along with J.J. Redick, who was one of the finalists for the Hornets job, and Sam Cassell for the Los Angeles Lakers head coaching job. And it's got a lot of Lakers fans and analysts and fanalists digging into his head coaching experience with the Charlotte Hornets and pulling out fact that digging out that he almost got into a fight with James Bouknight and some of the failures in the play-in. So it's been a good walk down memory lane there.
Man, fascinating time if he were to get that job. I mean, there's still a lot of Hornets fans out there. Never should have been fired. Never should have been moved on from.
I hope he gets it. I hope he gets it. If it's not the Lakers, it's the Suns. And if another job opens up, I want him to get a head coaching job. Well, because I want anybody to be successful. But also, it ends the what if. Because we've been playing this what if game with James Borrego for too long. I want to see him get another head coaching gig. Yeah. And if he's good, great. And if he's not, then I'll come on here and say I'm right.
Yeah, I was just going to say, why wouldn't you want someone, or why wouldn't you want the Lakers job? You sign like a $40 million contract after work like 8 months, and then you can do whatever you want.
Yeah.
You're going to get paid. Yeah, you're going to get paid.
Mm-hmm. It'll be interesting to see if James Borrego gets it.
Yeah, I just love that the Hornets got Charles Lee, and the Lakers are lapping up the scraps. Like, it is a great time to be a Hornets fan. They're dealing with J.J. Redick, and they're considering James Borrego. I just love it. And the Hornets, they got one of the hot prospects.
Yeah, I mean, it feels like to me, Borrego and even Sam Cassell are on that list, so that they have a list. When they eventually hire J.J. Redick, they'll be able to say they did a exhaustive search. But we'll see.
You're right. The names that are being publicized as candidates of interest without really having an in-person interview or something like that. But
we've all heard LeBron talk about James Borrego on the shop. He raved about it. We all know.
Yeah. Well, and then so with Shams and Woj, what did you call them, Doug? Information marketers. Is that right?
Yeah.
Or something totally. Like that, rather than being journalists. You prop these guys up just because, but we all know it might be JJ Redick. All right, that'll do it for Locked On Hornets. Thanks for making us your first listen. Again, we're free and available anywhere you get your podcast. David Walker makes weekly appearances on this show, yearly appearances on Wes and Walker. Find him on Twitter to know when both are coming up, at David B. Walker. Doug Branson, find his Substack, everyhornetsboxscore.com, and listen to me, Walker Mail, on WFNZ every weekday from 12 to 3 p.m. Sports Radio 92.7 FM. Have a great rest of your day. We'll be back with you tomorrow.
Bye-bye.